Hello there, guys. Welcome back to Younes Talks Football. Welcome back to a brand new video. I hope all of you are doing well. It's a little bit of a weird one. We don't normally do this, and I didn't really publicize this video happening. So this is a little bit of a surprise for you guys in the morning. Fear not, because later on, the preview for Barnsley versus Chelsea will be uploaded. So you're getting a double upload today. Yes, I'm that kind to you guys. I am joined by the lovely Elizabeth Helenek. Elizabeth, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm super excited to chat. It's always fun when we get together. So
it's the first time on the channel, isn't it?
It is this time.
Well, for those of you that don't know, we've got a Chelsea voice. She has her own channel, so link will be in the description. It's not there at the moment. I will stick it in, but it will be there. Elizabeth Helenek on YouTube does a lot of Chelsea content, so make sure you sub to her. But another thing is just a little background about yourself, because you're from the States, even though you're half Spanish, aren't you? Are you Spanish as well?
No,
you're not.
I'm fully American.
You're just fully American. Fully American.
New York, yeah, fully American. But my husband is Spanish, so we met in New York and then moved to Madrid 2.5 years ago. So that's like where the Spanish comes in, and that's why I'm living here, speak Spanish, everything. So.
But full American, a big Chelsea fan, and you've made a few appearances, nonetheless, most recently on Premier League TV. So if you're looking for a Chelsea rep on there, here's your girl. But yeah, your content is really, really good. So guys, make sure you do sub to her and do check her out on Twitter. Handle is on the screen. Let's jump into it. So we've got Thomas Tuchel, new gaffer in the house, new manager. What's your overall impression on Tuchel so far and life at Chelsea under his guidance?
Yeah, honestly, I was really shocked when the whole news broke. I wasn't really sure exactly what to expect. But I have to say, I've been so pleasantly surprised. I think that he's been doing a really great job. It seems he didn't go into an easy situation, right? Because the fan base was really divided. It seems that the dressing room was seemingly divided as well. Chelsea were in a really bad run of form. It's hard to turn all of those things around. But it seems that he's really come in and brought a new perspective, a fresh breath of air. Everybody seems to be training really well. I like his training methods as well. I liked that he said, I tried to make the training sessions really difficult so that during the game it's easy. And I just feel really confident with him as a coach. I know that he understands the players' strengths and weaknesses and tries to develop systems that's going to get the best out of the starting 11 players that are on the pitch, and think about how he can win the game, what the strategy is, what the tactics are, and implementing that and having the team execute it as well. I feel really confident in that. And I think that he's done a really good job to stop the goals from leaking, to start scoring some goals. I do think that we need to be scoring a little bit more goals because not many of them are coming from open play right now. But I think that that's something that we're going to see fixed in the future as well. And overall, I'm just really pleasantly surprised with how well that it's been going.
That's really, really true. And I think in terms of our front three, or the front line not scoring as much, are you confident that Tuchel will get the best out of them in the end or eventually? Or do you think there needs to be a certain change? Or what's the issue in terms of getting the goals from our forward men instead of our defenders and, players like that?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things, right? The team wasn't really playing with much confidence, and that's going to take a toll on these players. They're not going to be able to snap right back into it. So just in general, the players really weren't playing well. But I think also that we just have to get better at that final third pass and be more clinical. A lot of the times I feel that there's not enough power on these shots, and it seems that some of the players are just passing the ball back to the goalkeeper. So I think that he's going to be working on them with shooting techniques, and we do have a lot of players that can score a goal. We know that Pulisic can, Timo Werner should start scoring again. Callum Hudson-Odoi can score goals. Mason Mount wants to add more goals. That's not his main game, so to speak, but he can score goals, as we saw versus, who did we play? Sheffield.
Yep.
As we saw with Sheffield as well. And then you have other players that aren't even starting games recently, like Kai Havertz and Hakim Ziyech, who should also be contributing to goals as well. So I do think that he can get the best out of these players, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And I think right now the focus has really been, let's just try to string together some wins however we can. And even though the system is pretty defensive, you have three and sometimes 5 at the back. But by using those attacking wing backs, it does make it a little bit more of an attacking system.
Yep.
But I do think that the main focus was like, let's start getting some wins, top 4 slipping away. Let's try to get used to a formation, get used to certain roles and win games. And then you can start winning them by more margin.
Absolutely. Very, very true. And in terms of that system and the formation that Tuchel likes to bring, how do you see it panning out in the future? Do you reckon like what we're seeing is what we're going to get with Tuchel? Or do you think with maybe a couple of additions or a bit more rotation in the team, in the players that we have in the team, what do you think Tuchel's way forward will be, at least going into next season maybe?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because like it's said that he likes to rotate his formation a lot based off of the opponent, that he's not just going to stick with the same formation week in and week out, and that he will make adjustments to it. So I don't think that we're going to see this 3-4-2-1 formation for the entirety of even potentially this season, but definitely not next season as well. And I think like there still are certain players that we haven't even seen play together. Like I do think that Havertz and Mason Mount are going to need to find a way to play together, and he's probably going to need to find a formation that fits that. That's not to say every single game they need to play together, but you have like one of your biggest signings and then arguably your best player this season, like you're going to have to find a way for them to fit into the same starting 11. So I do think that maybe once we have a proper preseason and he can identify where the weaknesses are, maybe we'll go back to a back 4. But for the rest of the season, I think we're probably going to see the back 3. And it really depends a lot as well on who's going to stay and who leaves, because Jorginho's been touted for leaving for years now, and he still hasn't left. He doesn't have that many years left on his contract, I don't think. You have a lot of these players that look like they were out the door, and we don't know if they're going to stay or go. So that's going to affect it as well.
That's true. But in terms of, because I did the video on this yesterday, and I spoke about the doubts that some people have with Kai Havertz and notably Hakim Ziyech. At the moment, they're not really being used, or they're not. I don't want to say not being used. They're not playing as much as some would like. That's understandable, I think, with Havertz, because whether he's been injured or what's happened, he had the illness long ago. I can understand. With Ziyech, it's more of a thing of, at the moment, what we have is working. Do we bring him in? Do you have worry about those two? Or do you think they both have a major part in Tuchel's plans regardless?
It's difficult to say. I saw something that Tuchel said, oh, they're like both kind of coming back from injury. There's no need to like rush them back at all. And I think that the adjustment period really goes like unnoticed as well, because I think I saw some quotes from Hakim Ziyech. I don't know where they were from, but he basically said like this was a lot harder of an adjustment period than I thought of. I'm like not used to not having my mom and my friends around. It's a new country and everything. And he's 27, and then you have Kai Havertz who's just 21, and so it really is difficult. But that being said, like we know that Tuchel likes to play more direct, I think, and Hakim Ziyech is not necessarily that direct player that's going to take on somebody and beat a man and somebody like Callum or Pulisic. But I do think that there's room, and we did buy him. My thing is like, I think that Tuchel was probably bought in because, one, we were losing games, but 2, the board bought all of these players, and Lampard didn't really know how to fit them all into the same team. So I think he's going to have to fit these players in probably as a requisite of the job, And right now it's, like I said, it's just like, stop bleeding, let's get some goals. But I do think he's going to have to find a way to incorporate these players. But that's not to say that every player needs to start every single game. We've seen with Man City that it's really a roulette about who starts, and their bench is really freaking strong, and anybody could come off of the bench and be a starter in the starting 11. So I think that's what Chelsea kind of have at the moment. Right now, it's a very bloated squad. I do think we will sell a lot of players over the summer, but I don't think that anybody would be unhappy with starting one game and then going to the bench, making an appearance. As long as the team's winning and they're getting enough game time, there's going to be plenty of games to play for everybody, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I think as long as there's an understanding in the squad, between these players, that everyone has to play their part. And regardless if you are in the starting 11 or you're not, everyone needs to be on the same level playing field and okay with the decision that the manager makes. As long as that is the case and no one is taking it too personally, like we did see towards the latter stages under Lampard, where some players were just abandoned. and now they've been brought in. They're playing the games of their lives. It's, there has to be some clarity. So, yeah, fingers crossed Tuchel can bring that. But if we're looking to the next few months under Tuchel, obviously to the end of the season, how do you see it going? Are you optimistic or are you pessimistic? Do you think now in the Champions League, the FA Cup, we could do something big? Top 4, are we going to get it? What's your expectation now after seeing Chelsea under Tuchel for 4 games? Do you reckon there's something there? Or are you still a little bit, now, you know what? We're not there yet.
Well, I get really good vibes, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I do feel like the other teams around us as well aren't doing well. Liverpool are on a shocking run of form recently. Tottenham as well haven't been playing well. Leicester can kind of go either way. We saw last year that they were doing very, very well, and then they just fell out of the top 4 race as well. And Manchester United, I feel like, can also go either way. Like, they go on really good runs of form, and then they go on bad runs of form. So given that the teams around us really aren't playing that well and Chelsea are winning games, I do feel quite hopeful, especially because we're winning games against teams in low blocks that are just sat back to defend with 10 men, and we're trying to break them down. And those are games that Chelsea historically haven't been able to win, or at least not easily or convincingly. Maybe we get a draw out of these games, sometimes a loss. So I do think that it's very positive that Chelsea are gaining those wins from those teams. But I just have like this faith in Tuchel that he's going to be able to identify like this system and the players, and I think that he analyzes the opponent very well and really understands them and is able to adjust and put out a game plan. So I'm feeling quite hopeful for top 4. We're only like a couple points off now.
We're not far off now. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, 1 point behind Liverpool. So
yeah, there you are. Exactly. So I think that we could definitely get top 4. An FA Cup, potentially Champions League, I'm not as optimistic about because we're playing Atletico, but I am more optimistic than I was a few weeks ago.
Obviously, now with the Champions League, because there is a little bit of a difference, I'm not sure if you guys have heard. If you have, great. If you haven't, breaking news. So we have Chelsea playing Atletico in Bucharest. So we are traveling to Romania for the first leg, and then there will be a second leg at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea have confirmed that. That's on the website. That's on their app. You can go and check it out. But what are your thoughts on that? It's advantage Chelsea, that's for sure. But we still have to play 2 legs. And second leg being at Stamford Bridge, first one being at a neutral venue, Bucharest. What are your thoughts on that? Are you happy with that decision? Did you want it to be played in Madrid? I think you kind of did.
Okay, well, if I didn't live in Madrid, I literally wouldn't care, right?
Yeah.
But since I live in Madrid, I was really hoping that I was going to get a ticket to that game, and I was praying that like things would like settle down and that I could go to a football match by then.
Yeah.
It's just not been a thing. But when I saw that we drew Atletico, I was like, oh my God, maybe I get to see Chelsea play for the first time in like 5 years. But that being said, I'm not really too phased. I do think that we have an advantage because Atletico aren't going to be playing at home. But without home fans, you really don't have like all that much home side advantage anymore. I think like it's kind of been taken out of the game, and maybe you still have it a little bit, but it's definitely not as much as if you had fans in the stadium. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting match to say the least. We actually have a pretty good record against Atletico, but they're first in La Liga this season. Like they're
killing it. They are, and you're familiar. Obviously, you're in Madrid, and you're kind of getting the whole Spanish, point of view as to what's happening in La Liga. So, Atletico are killing it. Is there a sense, just to get a perspective as to what it's like over there, if you are getting the perspective of people in Madrid, what's the sense over there with Atletico and the way that they are playing? Are they honestly being looked at as the team like, whoa, what's going on? They are really good. Or do people look at it and go, it'll fade, like we're not worried? What's the whole vibe in Spain, if you know about Atletico?
I don't talk to many people about La Liga, honestly.
Chelsea only. Chelsea
But
only.
my niece and nephew are like Atletico Madrid fans as well, and so they like think that they're doing absolutely amazing. But I think like the main thing is that Real Madrid and Barcelona are just doing really badly this season, and they haven't been doing well. But Atletico Madrid look really strong. They don't concede many goals. They have a really tight defense, and as well they have really good offensive players. But I think Joao Felix might actually be out for our game. I think he had COVID. So that could be another advantage to Chelsea because he is a really big player for them.
Yeah, that is very true. Are you worried about Suarez? There's a big thing about Suarez because let's face it, he is killing it at Atletico at the moment.
I know.
Are you worried?
I am a little bit worried about Suarez, to be honest. I mean, how can you not be? He's an incredible player. He scores so many goals every single season, no matter what league he's in, no matter what team he plays for. He's just a monster goal scorer, you know. So I think that it's going to be a really big task for our defense to be able to stop him and make sure that he doesn't get into too dangerous positions because he's definitely one of their biggest threats.
I mean, the good thing about Suarez is even when he was at Liverpool, he didn't when he always came up against us, he never really done something, you know, that much, if you know what I mean. He didn't like destroy us or pack in loads of goals against us. He always seems to struggle against us to the point where he tried to bite Ivanovic's arm off. So, you know, there's do you remember that?
Just started following Chelsea at that point. Like it must have been like around 2014. And I was like, did he just bite him? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm making this up. Maybe it was much earlier and I saw replay or something, but I do remember that.
No, honestly, he is one hell of a striker. I think it's going to be tough, but hopefully Thiago Silva's back for that. Yeah. Because obviously the looking for Thiago Silva is apparently he might be back for Southampton, which is literally just before Atletico Madrid. So fingers crossed we have Thiago back for that, because if we don't, then we're gonna need a tactical masterclass to deal with an Atletico or a Luis Suarez. But moving aside, keeping the focus on Spain, because at Real Madrid there's a certain someone who's being linked with Chelsea Football Club. And if you don't know, it's crazy. It's in the title. I never thought I'd be saying this. Eden Hazard is being linked with a return to Chelsea for the region of around 40 to 50 million. Now, we sold him for like 120 or whatever it was. We made loads of money. Nice. So with Hazard and the way that he's been playing, with his injuries, with all sorts, if we're just taking the whole package as how you see Eden Hazard at the moment, are you for this? Do you reckon Chelsea should go back in for him?
The problem is, Younes, that I just am not rational when it comes to Eden Hazard. Like, if you tell me, oh, there's a player, he has played 10 games a year and he's getting injured all the time and it would be 40 million, I'd be like, no way, we have to stay away from this. But then you tell me it's Eden Hazard, I'm like, I love this man so much, I would go to his house and ship him to London right this second. So it's really difficult for me. I do think that it's still a lot given the amount of game time that he has. He's 30 already, he's injured a lot. It seems, I don't know what, like if it's like the staff there, the medical staff there, what's happening, or if it's just that he has an accumulation from all of the times that he was fouled in the Premier League and it's finally getting to him. But it definitely does not look great for Eden Hazard. I feel really bad because I hear like being in Madrid, nobody loves him. Like everybody's like, oh, this was like
really
yeah.
Oh my god.
They said it was like really bad signing. I was like, this hurts my heart because he's one of my favorite players ever. So as a Chelsea fan, I would absolutely love to see Eden Hazard back. But realistically, if I take the love out of it, probably doesn't make that much sense. Let's say we get him for like 20 million and he can come off the bench or something and be like, and reasonable wages as well. Like that's another thing. Like you have to look at the wages and stuff. I would love to have him back. Like if it were reasonable, but I understand that's probably not reasonable, basically.
I'm glad you said that, because we can't. I don't know if there's a thing with Chelsea and nostalgia, but it doesn't seem to go well. Drogba coming back was good. That did go as planned. I'd give us that. Mourinho coming back, that was nostalgic. Worked at first, then went horrifically wrong. Lampard came back, that was nostalgic. That went horrifically wrong. We don't seem to do well with nostalgia. But if I'm being real with Eden Hazard, I would definitely say no. As much as it would be amazing to have Eden Hazard back in blue, right? And it possibly leaves us back to the point of maybe he shouldn't have left in the first place. But he wanted the move. It was his dream move. Madrid wanted him. It happened. Blimey, I'm knocking things over. No, I'm stressed. No, Eden Hazard. I think his body's broken. You know, the way that it's looking, his constant injuries. It's sad to see. Just every time he plays, he racks up a couple of games. Injury, and then he comes back, racks up a couple of games. Injury. And I think if you can correct me, how many injuries has he had? If you know, is it like 11, 12?
He's not played like hardly any games. We can look at. I really don't know how many games he's played, but I know that he's played. I don't know, maybe 30 in like 2 years, something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Could be making that up. But I do remember like he did have to get a surgery a couple of years ago. Do you remember that? And he has like a metal plate or something in his ankle. And they basically said like this will never be fixed. It's just something that he has to live with and learn how to play with. And I think that that's probably also another factor that's affecting him. I agree with you. Like, if I take the sentiments out of it, then no, I wouldn't have Hazard back. But if you create this like ideal scenario where you get him for free, he takes minimum wages, it's just like hanging out on the bench, maybe comes out for an appearance here and there, then we're like, why not?
Can you imagine Hazard at Chelsea on minimum wage?
Yeah.
I mean, with Hazard, because there is an area that not a lot of people are talking about. If you remember. And I forgot what season it was at Chelsea, but there was one season he came back overweight, if you remember, and he had to work all of that off, and he did. Fair play to him. But the discipline here, especially in this country, in regards to keeping your physical shape, keeping your fitness up, is at a high standard. You have to. You don't have a choice. I don't know at Madrid if it's the same or if it's a little bit more relaxed. But there is the worry that Eden Hazard has fallen back into that cycle and not really taken care of himself. And now he's paying the price. I don't know if that's the case, but do you think there's something substantial to that?
I feel like he never really like took it like that seriously, you know, like over the summer when he came back, I feel like he looked a little chubby and he even said like, oh yeah, I enjoy hamburgers and whatever else. And he's always kind of been that kind of player. And I think like many people have said he didn't even really train that hard, but then he would perform and be man of the match game after game. So I don't know, like maybe the standard at La Liga is not as intense. I really don't know why that's happening. Maybe it's caught up to him. He's 30 already. Like I already feel my bones hurting at 26. So
yeah, when you get to 30, just get the cane out and just start. You know what I mean? No, honestly, yeah. If it's a legit link and Chelsea are actually considering getting Hazard back, I hope it's just in a case of he comes off the bench for 10 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Like an impact player that can change the game if he's fit enough, like Drogba did. You know, when Drogba came back, we hardly saw him. He'd come on for like 15, 20 minutes and that was it. But he was a good presence in the dressing room. And that was the reason why he was brought back. For Hazard coming back, I don't know what the overall achievement would be in trying to get Hazard back for us or for our team at the moment. And I hope it doesn't hinder the likes of Hudson-Odoi or, you know, Pulisic and wingers that we have now that we can focus on and try and go for. Do you know what I mean? So, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We'll get to some of your comments. Do send in a couple of your questions if you have them. But if we're looking to Barnsley, really quickly, and the FA Cup, obviously, tomorrow. I'm losing track of days, honestly, with the way that things are going in the world. I'm always having to check what day is it. Like, I don't know what day it is. It's Wednesday.
I know, me too. I woke up on Tuesday, and I'm like, it's Friday. No, you still have 4 days to go. Like, that sucks.
It's really hard to say. Do you expect a lot of rotation tomorrow for Barnsley?
Yeah. Especially because, like, we had talked about on my preview, we were actually not expecting as much rotation as we saw in the Sheffield's game. Like, we were expecting certain players like Alonso and Callum to start those games. But I do think that we're going to see a lot of rotation. I think it's a perfect game for Havertz to start, for Ziyech to start as well, for Pulisic to start. Pulisic has not been starting, and it's breaking my heart. I love him, and he doesn't start.
He's back in training, though, isn't he? I think he went off to watch the Super Bowl. So he wasn't available for our last
Really a
game.
thing? Was that really a thing? I have no idea.
No, I don't think it was. Apparently, there was family reasons, but people were saying he only said that to go and watch the Super Bowl.
Oh my god.
I don't know.
It wasn't a big game, so whatever. But who else? Like Tuchel, I think it would be a good game for him.
Yeah.
Even I think he did start versus Sheffield. But he just hasn't been playing well at all. So I think it would be a good game for him to try to, like, I don't know, get back into it. You know what I mean? He just hasn't looked like himself, and maybe against an easy, I don't want to say an easier opponent, but, you know, somebody not in the Premier League, maybe it gives him a little bit more confidence to play as well. What about you?
I mean, with tomorrow, I reckon there's going to be heavy rotation. I'd suspect there's heavy rotation. Some of the players that we didn't see, I don't know about Havertz because Havertz didn't train. It seems like he didn't train, so I don't know whether he's going to be available or not. But fingers crossed he is, because I want to see him play. I want to see Ziyech. I do want to see Pulisic start. That would be cool. I think Zuma will be reintroduced. I think we'll get Kepa to play. Yeah, those sort of things I think would be really, really good to see. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
I forgot about Kepa.
We all forget about Kepa now. We all forget about Kepa. If not, we'll just play Caballero and just pretend he doesn't exist. No, with tomorrow, if you had to make a prediction, because obviously I'm going to do my preview for later on, but to get your opinion on it, if you make a prediction, what are you saying for the Barnsley game tomorrow? Considering we're playing away, it's at Barnsley. Is it going to be a heavy score? Is it going to be a tough one? Do you think?
I'm going to go for 3-0 to Chelsea, because I do think that we're going to score a couple of goals, but I don't think it's going to be an absolute beating. And I don't know Barnsley at all, but I'm assuming that they're probably going to sit back and try to absorb the pressure. But after that first goal, that always kind of dissipates, because they need to get a goal to get back into the game. And then that creates more space, and Chelsea can try to take advantage of that and score more goals. So I do think that we're going to score a couple. Hopefully we can keep the clean sheet. I'm trying to be optimistic here. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like, for me, worrying that we haven't been scoring that many goals. So I do question like where they're going to come from a little bit. But
I mean, it's Barnsley. If we're not firing against Barnsley, all due respect, if we're not firing against Barnsley, there's a problem. Someone says Gilmore, and that's a very good one to focus on here, because do you think he will get the chance under Tuchel? Obviously, with the way Jorginho and Kovacic are playing at the moment, they're killing it. They are absolutely killing it. So I think Gilmore will play tomorrow, if I'm going to have to predict. I think we might see Gilmore Kante, if I'm being realistic. But do you think he will get that opportunity? Do you think eventually, maybe into next season, he will flourish under Tuchel? Do you see something there?
Yeah, and I think Gilmore wanted to go out on loan, and Tuchel, I think, actually blocked it, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know like necessarily the ins and outs of it, but Gilmore, I think, had the opportunity to go out on loan. He didn't end up going out on loan, which tells me that he should be getting game time under Tuchel, especially with the Euros coming up. We know that he wants to be in the starting squad for Scotland as well. So I do think that we're going to see more of Billy Gilmore, especially in these FA Cup runs as well. And it depends really like on the number of Premier League games that we have. I don't think that Jorginho and Kovacic can start every single game when they're coming up hot and heavy. You have a game every 3 days. I also think that, you know, sometimes Jorginho can be limited. It really depends on the opponent. And I think that Gilmore could be a good person to slot in there. Whether Tuchel's necessarily going to do it, I don't know. But for me personally, Gilmore's only 19, so I'd rather give the minutes to him. You don't know if Jorginho's like going to stay at Chelsea, and I'd rather invest the minutes in somebody like Gilmore, who has proved that he can perform. Maybe he's going to make a couple more mistakes, but I also think that he can sometimes offer a little bit more than Jorginho can. Jorginho, you kind of know what you're getting with him.
Yeah.
But with Gilmore, I think that it could be a very good investment for your future, basically, and he's a fantastic player.
Absolutely. I think we need to be careful not to get too carried away. As you said, he's still young. He's still got time. I mean, you know, you're looking at a Tammy Abraham or Mason Mount and where they are in their development. You know, Billy Gilmore is still a little bit behind. So, you know, even though the potential is there and we reckon that he would come in and do an absolute job, I trust Billy Gilmore and I love the way he plays. But fingers crossed he has that trust with Tuchel, and Tuchel has a vision for him and he will use him. Because if he does, honestly, I think Billy Gilmore at 24, 25 could be crazy.
Yeah.
Could be crazy. I'm talking Ballon d'Or crazy. So
that's it.
Iniesta vibes. If we Tom James has put here, and I've put it on the screen, Barnsley win 1-0, mate. If that happens, I'm gonna contact you and you're gonna send me lottery numbers. Yeah, and I'll give you a split of the earnings. We've got a comment here from the African Child. Thank you very much, by the way, for the contribution. Where is Charlie Musonda? If he's fit, this will be good for him too. I don't know if you know about Musonda. Have you been keeping up to date with him on his Instagram?
No, I obviously have not.
So with Musonda, because he's still at Chelsea, and he got a serious injury. We remember Musonda and how long he's been out for, but he got given a 20% chance by doctors that he could ever come back and play football again. He is now on the brink of returning properly. Like I don't know how he's done it. I mean, he's put on his Insta a lot in regards to Tom Brady, a lot of his inspirations that have helped him through his journey back into full fitness. And Chelsea have stuck by him. He's still at Cobham. He's training, but now he's about to return to full training. And no one thought he'd do it. So with that in mind, and I'm projecting a full training for the next month or so, he could be in contention to start playing matches again. So that's incredible. Based on what you know, if you do, about Musonda, a winger, obviously, do you think that there's a chance he could break into this team and defy all possible odds? Because if he does, that would be incredible.
I don't know. I remember watching him, I don't know how many years ago it was now, maybe 4 or something like that. Like, it feels like
a while ago.
Yeah, he's been on the rise for a while, and I was really impressed with him when I had seen him. But then I feel like he's just been really plagued with injuries, and this latest one just seems like really terrible. But I don't think that that's necessarily a position where we have a lot of options to break into the team, because you have like a lot of players that can play there. So maybe for an FA Cup game, I could see it if we do like a lot of rotation. But I don't necessarily see him breaking into this team. I think that there's other position. It really depends on, it's a luck game of where you have positions when you're coming through the ranks, where you have open positions, and I just don't see winger necessarily being one of them for a youth player right now.
I mean, yeah, it'd definitely be difficult for him to break in, that's for sure. But if he does, I wish him the best. I hope he does it. I hope he can convince Tuchel. It would be something to make a movie on. If he does make a full comeback, that would be something to make a movie on. So, yeah, fingers crossed. But we'll leave it there. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a good distraction from work during my lunch break. So.
No, honestly, if you guys are, if you've enjoyed it and you're happy about all of this, then make sure you check out her link in the description. I've put it in the description now, so you can head there and check it out. If you can't see it, just refresh the page and you will see it there. Make sure you give her a follow, give her a sub. And yeah, do follow her content. Keep smashing it. I hope to see you on Premier League TV very soon again.
I hope so too.
Fingers crossed. No, but thank you for coming on. Her Twitter handle as well will be on the screen. There we are. And yeah, we'll definitely do something again soon. Guys, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to be notified once I've uploaded. Be sure to catch the preview to Barnsley versus Chelsea later on today. So that will be up in a few hours. Keep your eyes peeled. And I'll see you tomorrow for the watch along and the match review on here for the Barnsley versus Chelsea. So I'll see all of you then. Thank you so much for watching. Elizabeth, thank you for coming on again. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Take care and peace.
Bye.